Hello, everybody.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, today we're going to be covering a different deck, probably one that you've never seen before. I don't assume I've never seen it, but yeah, it's some jank stuff. It's still in BT5. I'm going to preface it like that, and I will preface also, I don't think this is like a tier 1 deck or anything like that. This is like, we're at the end of BT5. Us in North America have been waiting a long time for BT6 and still will be waiting a long time more. So I wanted to just play and test out some other random decks. And this deck, it's just really weird. It's really interesting. You saw probably in the thumbnail kind of what the deck revolves around, but surprisingly, it works. I've played a number of games, like practice games, nothing in like official tournaments or anything. So grains of salt, but it runs pretty well in all those games, and it has pretty good matchups, even against things that I think it would not do well against. So yeah, without further ado, I'll just get into it, and we can just show you the deck profile. I just wanted to share this with y'all. It's a fun concept. So the deck in general is going to be a purple DanDevimon all delete deck. And that's a very strange concept, but I think the card all delete, the problem with it is it's 10 memory. Everyone is affected, yourself included, right? So the problem that you have running it is you are just as hurt as your opponent, most likely. And like, unless you're playing security control, which security control, it's not a good card in even because you need to have an Omnimon on board, right? So you just give your opponent too much memory, they can usually come back from it. But there are some combos in this deck that I think make it actually a viable strategy for once. So let's go through it. This is a purple deck, purple-based deck. We have, for our babies, I'm only playing 4 of the Demimiras. You could run 5 babies. I just like Demimira, useful card. Let me adjust that just a hair. Useful card, I like it. If you want to run 5, just find another baby and roll with it, right? But yeah, 4 Demi-Miramons as our baby. Draw 1, trash 1. Now let's get into what probably makes this deck tick more than anything, and that is the DanDevimon engine. So we are running 4 of the promo Devimon. If you're familiar with this, you'll know, but if you're not, if you have 7 or more Digimon with Devimon in their name in your trash, you can play a DanDevimon from your trash without paying its memory cost. And just so you know, in terms of when you count that number, you include this card and whatever was in its stack as well. So if you only have like 5, but there's a Devimon and a Demi-Devi, those 2 get included to count towards 7, just so you know. Then we've got 4 of the BT2, the 2-cost Demi-Devimon. Gotta flex the one of Store Champion one that I have. Not because I want a Store Championship, but they split up the Store Champion pack between top 4. Still searching for that invite. We got 4 of those just for more Demi-Devis. 4 Gyumons because, you know, deletion by effects, gaining a memory, always useful. A variety of different things in this deck can do that. So yeah, just a good card. And then 2, I put 2 of the starter deck Demi-Devi that are 2-drop just to have more Devimon fodder. Because the one thing about this deck is you want your DanDevimon proc to be on as early and as often as possible. It's really important for this deck. I think even more so than a typical DanDevi deck. So we're playing a lot of Devimons over cards that you may say, that's probably just a better purple card because we need that consistency in DanDevi recovery. Going into level 4, so that's 14 3s. We have 4 of the blocker Devimon. Just a 1-cost Evo. It's a blocker. You want blockers in this deck too. It's got Devimon in its name. We're happy. We've got 4 of the Retaliation Devi. You can certainly use the Retaliation effect. Still good in this format, I think. But just more Devimon fodder as well. And then finally, we're rounding it out with 3 of Vilemon blocker. You could play around with what the last slot is here for level 4s. I have 11 level 4s too. Maybe you can go down to 10. Maybe you want to go up to 12. Figure out what you do and don't like about this deck. This deck is certainly not a set in stone kind of thing. But yeah, that's the level 4 lines. We have 7 blockers total, which is important. We have 4 in the level 5s of Lady Devimon. Trigger draw 2, trash 2 when you Digivolve. So you're really drawing 3, trashing 2 with the Digivolve. mechanic. And then the inheritable is also useful in this deck situationally. When you use an option, delete one of your opponent's level 3. We do have other options outside of all delete that you can use if you just need to clear a couple of things on the board. And this is where it also starts to deviate quite a bit from a typical deck. We have 4 Neo Devimon. Again, I want as many Devimon targets in the deck so that they can be in the trash, so that our DanDevi is live as often as possible. So Neo Devi, another option there. This one also will catch people by surprise. Its ability is opponent's turn. When an opponent plays a tamer, gain 3 memory. There are many opponents who don't even know about this effect. They'll just play their tamer potentially, and you'll just be like, okay, you thought you were only giving me 2. You're actually giving me 5. No take backsies, right? It has the other effect inheritable. When an opponent's tamer becomes suspended, gain a memory. Yeah, situationally it could be useful. But yeah, also just more Devimon fodder. And then we come to what makes this deck really tick in terms of like why all delete can be used, and I'll explain that. We play 4 DanDevimon, very heavy in the DanDevimon world. The reason being is that DanDevimon has it in its ability, obviously it has opponent's turn once per turn. When a card is removed from your security, trash the top of your opponent's security stack. That's good at helping you like keep a little bit of pace with certain opponents when you have this on board. But the reason I picked this mega in particular for all delete is on deletion, your opponent trashes 2 cards in their hand. Now they get to pick, which is big, but the thing I said about all delete is you give your opponent a ton of memory, and if your opponent has a ton of memory and a lot of cards in their hand, they're going to come back pretty easily from that. This, if you have 1 or 2 of these on the board when you use an all delete, all of a sudden you have the makings of, you know, only having 2, 3 cards in hand, maybe less. In certain matchups that I was testing this against, my opponent went down to 0. And so, yeah, you give your opponent 9 memory or whatever, but they're at 0 cards in hand. All they're going to be able to do is draw, probably play a card, and then pass. And then you go back up to 3 because they literally can do nothing else. And that's huge. So that's why this DanDevi works. Also, the DanDevi is really nice because the DemiDevi the effect will proc on all deletion. So if you delete a bunch of stuff and you have 1 or 2 of these DemiDevis and enough DanDevis and Devimons in trash, you can proc it after the all deletion and then bring bodies back onto the board. That's another reason that this is a really important set of cards for all delete. You can bring cards back to the board after all delete, so you actually don't wipe your board fully, and you can trash cards from your opponent's hand. All of that, and then the order that you choose it, you can choose to proc the DemiDevi last, so you can have 2 DanDevis on the field. All delete happens, DanDevis go to the trash, your opponent trashes cards from their hand, then you resolve 1 or 2 of the DemiDevis, and you can bring the ones that just died right back. Also important to know like that you can choose that order so that you have valid targets in the trash. So, 4 DanDevis, you can sort of see now why that's so important. Then we have 2 more level 6s just to have more level 6s, and I actually chose Malo Myotismon. Now, this card is super interesting and very underplayed, I would say. So it will trigger as Digimon are deleted, but because he's only it will not activate. Okay, sorry, I'm just checking. I was checking a ruling from a judge on this one. But this one, it has piercing, which is useful situationally, but it also has all turns when another Digimon is deleted, gain 1 memory. So this is just an annoying card for your opponents to deal with. I was hoping, and my judge will not. My judge confirmed this will not work this way. All delete does not allow you to gain memory when it's on the field and other things are deleted. Yes, it will see the deletion, but the effect will not be able to activate because then this will also be deleted. So if you're wondering, you will not be able to gain memory on all delete, but you will be able to gain memory on deleting whenever yours or another Digimon are deleted. So retaliation, other things that are going on, your opponent deleting your things, they'll gain you memory. So it's just an annoying card to have to play around for your opponent. That's why it's in here. You could certainly switch this up with Chaos Gallant, potentially. that might be a really good option because Chaos Gallant's effect maybe would proc. I'm not sure. But yeah, this is the 1 level 6 slot that like play around with it, see what feels fun to you. Again, you're not building this deck to be a top tier deck. You're just building it because it's kind of wacky and fun. So, in terms of the Omnimons we're playing, because all delete, if you don't know, requires Omnimons. We are playing 4 defeats. The reason for 4 defeats is because, yes, you can Evo on top of all of these, which is great. You can delete Tamers, it has great on deletion effects, but the security of it being able to bring an Omnimon onto the field instantly, that is also huge for this deck. So we're playing 4 of these and just 2 of the Zwarts. The Zwart has when Digivolving, trash the top 3, and then you can bring 2 Digimon, 2 may return 1 level 6 Digimon in this card's hand to delete. It's got a lot of effects. You can bring more things back. Usually, you know, decide how you want to play the game. And if you need more bodies and you don't need to delete everything, you can go into this, get a flood of bodies, use all the bodies, and then all delete the following turn. So big swings there. So that's our Omnimon lineup. In terms of the other cards that make the deck tick, we have 2, and only 2 all deletes, which I know seems weird for a deck that you're like, oh yeah, I made all delete work. The reason I'm only running 2 is because it is situational, very situational. Also, it has the security effect of add it to its owner's hand. So the odds of you seeing it during the course of a game are very high. Even if it's in security, once it gets checked, it goes to your hand. So I don't think you need more than 2 of this card. So that's why we only run 2. Play around with it. If you really want to run 3, I guess run 3, that's fine. But I felt that 2 were about all you needed. If you're using more than 2 all deletes in a game, you're probably losing anyways, to be frank. And then the last 3 cards are Back for Revenge. This card says one of your Digimon gains on deletion. Play this card without paying its memory cost. So another really good option for you to, you know, you can bring DanDevis back with DemiDevi. You can also bring other cards, whatever's on the field, back with Back for Revenge. So you play Back for Revenge, play all delete, and then the card that gets deleted that you play Back for Revenge on comes back. So that sort of combo of things will help you maintain board advantage, even though you're wiping the board. And yeah, that is the deck. What I would say broadly about this deck is that it, like I said, it's a setup deck for sure, but it was way more consistent than I was expecting. The ability that Zwart Defeat has of coming from security did come in clutch for me when I was practicing the deck. And like DanDevi is just, it really shines in this deck. The only thing that you have to remember with this deck, and is important, is the wording of all delete. So with all delete, you have to return a Digimon with Omnimon in its name to its owner's hand. And by the way, you can play this because all the Omnimons are white. So this allows you, if you can only play with an Omnimon, and Omnimons are all white, so it works. Just in case your opponent is like, you don't have a white card on the field. Omnimon is white. But the one thing that I learned when playing this, which wasn't completely obvious, was you return a card with Omnimon to your owner's hand to delete all Digimon and Tamers. But before you do that, you trash all the Digivolution cards of the Digimon you returned with this effect. So initially I was like, oh, I'll all delete, bring Zwart Defeat from on top of my DanDevi, and then delete the DanDevi and get all the DanDevi deletion. No. You will trash all of those cards instead of deleting them. So none of the DanDevi or that stack's effects proc. So important to remember, just small little ruling things. Appreciate the one player who pointed that out to me because it is important. So what you choose to Evo over and bring back to hand, all that stuff, just keep that in mind. But yeah, other than that, a lot of fun. This deck is just a lot of fun, and play it at your locals. Take everybody by surprise. Enjoy it. Try to have fun for the next month in North America of BT5 because what's the point otherwise, right? Like, you know, just have fun. Anyways, with that, I will see you all later. Carpe Awesome.